it'll cut itself into two. So in terms of receiver call quality, I had no issues wherever I had good reception. Now I've used both of these on T-Mobile. Wherever I had good reception, the calls came through very loud, crisp, and clear with the built-in receivers. Now, when it comes to the speaker calls, I'd have to say that this is a, I'm going to have to give this one to the G5 Plus, okay? But the speaker calls are very loud, crisp, and clear. But overall, I wish that they got a little bit louder on each device. But in terms of speaker call quality as a whole, I'd have to give it to the G5 Plus. Alright, but that pretty much does it for the speaker call quality and the receiver call quality on both of the devices. Now, this is usually where I talk about the cameras and the camera interfaces. But in the interest of speed, I'm just going to give you my overall impressions of both of these cameras. Alright? For a more in-depth look at the cameras and the camera interfaces, please check out my full reviews, which will be linked down below. Now, in terms of cameras, let's start off with the X2. The X2 has a 16 megapixel camera on the back, which is capable of 1080p video recording, and I can't remember for the life of me if it has slow motion or not, but I don't believe so. But in terms of photo call quality on the photo quality on the X2, I have to say that it's good. Wherever you have good lighting, it's going to be a good experience. In terms of video quality on the X2, it's also good. Keep in mind, again, you're going to need a lot of light, and darker scenes, you're going to have some issues. But overall, if you have good lighting and you're trying to take a photo or a video, it should be a good experience. Alright, now, jumping over to the G5 Plus. Alright, in terms of cameras on the G5 Plus, this one has a 12 megapixel dual focus camera on the back, and it can record 4K video at 30 frames, 1080p 60, 1080p 30, and 720p slow motion at 120 frames. Also, I missed something. Oh, wait, no, I didn't. The front camera is 8 megapixels, and it can record video up to 720p on the X2. And that really is, again, in my experience with good lighting, it's going to be a good camera. It's good. Again, over here, jumping back over, the same can be said over here. The photo experience on the G5 Plus is good. It's not as good as I was expecting. There were some focus issues and some distance issues. I found that I had to get a little bit closer to my subjects than I wanted to, but when I did line everything up just right, the photos and video on this guy were extremely good. Alright, up front it has a 5 megapixel camera, and that's capable of 1080p videos at 30 frames a second, so 720p over here, 1080p over here. And again, it's pretty much the same across devices. It was a good experience taking photos whenever I had light, and the same could be said for the videos. It's going to be a really good experience. Now, let me just throw something in here. In extreme low light, using the flash on these devices, and just the flash, and maybe having, let's say you was taking a picture with the TV on, you know, some kind of low ambient light. In my experience, I was able to get a little bit clearer photos with the X2. It was a little bit more blurry and pixelated on the G5 Plus. Okay, that's just in extreme low light using the flash on these devices. Just wanted to throw that one in there. But again, in terms of overall camera performance, I'm going to have to give it to the G5 Plus in day-to-day usage, and in extreme low light, I'm going to have to give it to the X2. Now, in terms of videos, I'm going to have to give it to the G5 Plus across the board. Okay? So there is that. Now, in terms of camera interfaces, even though I know I didn't show you guys, please check out my full reviews to see those in-depth walkarounds of the camera interfaces. But in terms of camera interfaces, this was close because they're both extremely easy to use, and the learning curves on them are extremely low. But I'm gonna have to give the edge in the camera interface department to the G5 Plus. Now, that does not in any shape or form mean that the camera interface experience on the X2 is bad. It's just a more user-friendly experience on the G5 Plus. Just wanted to point that out, guys. Now, next, this is usually where I talk about the gaming, but pretty much in terms of the games that I played, I had no issues. And if you're a casual gamer like myself, you're not going to have any issues, guys. Alright, and keep in mind, it's an Adreno 506 GPU on this one, and an Adreno 505 GPU on this one. And it's funny, because as I was looking up the specs, comparing these devices, because I had them side by side, I realized something. This is the same in the X2, in the Blu Life One X2, this is the same internals as what will be on the G5, the Moto G5. Okay, not the G5 Plus, the regular G5, which is a 5-inch display. It has the Snapdragon 430, and this would be the same base loadout for the G5. So I thought that was interesting. Except for the G5 camera on the back is 13 megapixels, and it's running the latest version of Android, and you know, it pretty much looks like this phone, the G5 Plus, but a little bit smaller. But I thought it was interesting to see that overall the internals of those two devices were the same. That pretty much drove me to do the comparison video of these two devices. Next, so I just wanted to point that out. Now, in terms of benchmarks, please check out my full reviews if you want to see the in-depth benchmarks. But I have to say that these phones perform pretty much where you would expect them to in the benchmark performance. But keep in mind, guys, benchmarks means absolutely nothing. That's just raw. As end users, is the overall fluid and smooth user experience, which equates to a fast and smooth user experience, which is what we should all strive for and push our manufacturers to have on their devices as a whole. And y'all know which manufacturers I'm talking about when I say push them to get more smoother and fast across the board. I'm not going to call any names, but I'm sure we could drop some names down in the comments. When it comes to sluggish, slow, and unresponsive manufacturer user interfaces, we can all think of some. And they should all strive to have more fluid and fast user experiences across the board. Because at the end of the day, you got to keep your customers happy. That's how you keep them coming back. So, just wanted to point that out. Sorry if I went off on a little bit of a rant there. But it is what it is. The benchmarks, both these devices perform pretty much where you would expect them to. Now, next, this brings us to one of my favorite segments. The battery life and the charge times. Now, if you want to hear my more in-depth thoughts, please check out my full review. But in terms of battery life, guys, these guys are kind of close. Now, start off with the X2 here. In terms of battery, let me run down the things that affect the battery the most. This guy has a Snapdragon 430 processor. It has a 3,150 milliamp hour battery and a 1080p display. Those are pretty much the things that hit on the battery the most, and the GPU only hits on the battery if you're playing a bunch of games, stuff like that. But in terms of battery on the X2, and we're talking about in terms of heavy usage, again, for a more in-depth look and at my other usage scenarios, please check out my full review. But in terms of just heavy usage, the X2 can get anywhere from about 6 hours to 8 hours with heavy usage. Keep in mind that's just in my experience with heavy usage. Alright, now in terms of charge times, the X2 has quick charging 3.0 technology, and that puts it more in line with the turbocharging technology of the Moto X Pure Edition. So what does that mean? That I get some really fast charging times. I think they tout being able to go from 0 to 80% in about 30 minutes, and I found that was almost spot on. It took me a little bit longer than that, but it falls more in line with the Moto X Pure Edition. So that being said, from about 10% to 100 is a little bit over an hour, like an hour and 10 minutes. From about 20% to 100 is like an hour, and from about from about 15% to 100 is about an hour. My bad, guys, my bad. And from about 20% to 100 is about 45 minutes, give or take a few minutes or so, 45, 55 minutes. So the charging times on the X2 are really good. Now I do want to point out, now that I brought this device back in, there is a little bit of a heating issue while charging. The device does get quite warm, so I do want to point that out. It's not uncomfortably warm, but it did get noticeably warm, so I want to point that out. If you guys are uncomfortable with that, please return your devices or reach out to your manufacturers. Even though, be prepared, guys, because Blu's customer service is almost non-existent in some cases. Now, it does depend on whether you have newer devices or not, but if you have a little bit older devices, that customer service for those older devices may be non-existent. So, I just wanted to point that out. Now, in terms of battery life and charge times on the G5 Plus, in terms of overall screen time, we're strictly talking about heavy usage, guys. I was able to get anywhere from about 7.5 hours to about 10.5 hours, and this is with heavy usage. This is YouTube, phone calls, GPS, Bluetooth, all that good stuff pumping, music listening, screen on. Yeah, it's about 7.5 to 10 hours, 10.5 hours. But in terms of overall charge times, I found that this one falls more in line with the Z Max Pro, give or take a few minutes. So from about 10% to full is going to take you about an hour and 55 minutes. From about 15% to full, going to take you anywhere from about an hour and 50 minutes to an hour and 45. And from about 20% to full is going to take you about an hour and 45 minutes. So pretty much regardless of where you put it on the charger at, it's going to take you roughly about an hour and 45 minutes to an hour and 55 minutes. But that's not bad, but it could be better. And seeing as this guy has turbocharging in it, and coming from the Moto X Pure Edition, I have much higher expectations of the turbocharging technology on the G5 Plus. And I'm sorry to say, it fell a little bit flat in that department. But anyways, you guys may be wondering now, who won what? In terms of overall screen on time with heavy usage, I'm going to have to easily give that to the G5 Plus. Again, I don't think I mentioned it. The G5 Plus has a 10,000, I'm tripping. I wish it did. Has a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, a 1080p display, a Snapdragon 625 processor, which is really a beast when it comes to battery life, and a Dretal 506, which only really comes into play when you're playing them games. So, yeah, forgot to point that out. But in terms of battery life and overall screen on times, I have to get that to the G5 Plus. In terms of charging times, I'm going to have to get that to the X2 over here, the Blu Life One X2. Alright? But that being said, these two guys should be an enjoyable experience regardless of which device you pick up. Alright, now we've reached the end of the video. This is where I talk about the price and I give you guys my final thoughts and a recommendation or two. Now, I just wanted to point out a few things here, go a little bit more in depth when we talk about the price. So I set this up to be more efficient. So just want to pull this up real quick, guys. Give me a second. Oh, I had it loaded up and it completely kicked me out. Alright, so let's go here. Let's see. See, I had it pulled up, but I guess because I had the screens on the devices off, that it kind of wiped out some of the memory a little bit. Now, I do want to point out this for you guys. Just real quick, I want to point that out. Now, to get these guys spec'd out exactly the same, with the only differences being the cameras and the internal processors, the price difference here is it's a little high. It's not too bad. It's a little high, but the price difference for the 4GB models. Keep in mind this is the Amazon edition, so you got your Amazon ads, and it will be a little bit more expensive if you get the ones without ads, but this is strictly comparing the Amazon ads to the regular X2. But to get these guys spec'd out exactly the same internally, minus the cameras, it's about a $60 difference. So that would get you 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage. Alright, now that does not factor in, you still have to factor in if you're going to get a case, which I would recommend, which is nice because Blu provides you with all that stuff out the box. So with the Blu device, $180 gets you that case, that screen protector, that charger, headphones, all that good stuff. Whereas the $240 on the G5 Plus only gets you the device. You still have to factor in another $5 for the tempered glass screen protector and another $5 for the case. And keep in mind, you still have to purchase SD cards. Now, I had the same SanDisk 64 gig SD card in both of these devices. That's about $20. So you got to take all of that stuff into account. But strictly talking about just the devices and just the price for the devices, there's about a $60 difference to get these guys spec'd out the exact same, minus the cameras and slight internal differences. Alright, whereas if you go with the lower spec models, let me switch it down here. Alright, so if you run with the lowest spec models, let me jump down. Then you're actually looking at something like what's that? Like $30, $35 difference. Let me see, I had it pulled up in the background here. Yeah, it's about a $35 difference. So you can actually get this one on sale right now for $136. So that's actually really good. But usually you can see it's $150. So $150 gets you that 2 gigs, 16 gigs of storage, but you have microSD card expansion and it does have adaptable storage. Whereas with the G5 Plus, that $180, $85 gets you 2 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, and you have the microSD card slot. You're running 6.0 Marshmallow on this one and 7.0 on that one. So I just wanted to point out those price differences. So for the lower tier models, it's about a $35 difference. For the higher tier models, it's about a $60 difference. And really, in my experience, now keep in mind, I've only had the lower tier models, but they seem to run really, really good. So if you pick up the higher tier ones, they will probably run just as good, if not better. So it's really up to you. But that being said, you guys may be wondering, which one do I recommend? Alright? Now, this comes with a lot of, it's really personal preference, but this one pretty much goes back and forth depending on what you want. Now, if you just want a solid all-around performer with some really good battery life, you can save yourself some cash and get the X2. Alright? The X2. Now, it's going to charge a little bit faster, but the overall battery life is going to be a little bit less. About two hours less. Now, that being said, if you want an all-around good performer with some good cameras and some great battery life, go ahead and pick up the G5 Plus. You're going to definitely get all-day battery life and then some, with the only downside being the focus hunting in the cameras, which I can deal with, which is why I'm not sending it back. Sometimes the camera might crash. Not really sure what the issue is there. Maybe I'm pushing it hard with the video content, but I am a YouTuber, so I use these devices not only for casual use, but producing video content. So you will get the occasional camera crashes if you push it hard, and you may get the occasional reboots if you're pushing the camera hard as well. Realistically, guys, the only time I got a reboot was when I was pushing the camera hard. So I do want to point that out. But if you want some overall really good battery life and some really good cameras, slightly better than the X2, I would say go with the G5 Plus. You're going to get all day battery life and then some. If you're a heavy user, you're definitely going to get all day battery life with about 9.5 to 10.5 hours of screen on time. If you're a light to moderate user, you're going to definitely get through the day, maybe get a day and a half to 2 days. Alright? Whereas with this guy, if you're a heavy user, you're going to get about 8 hours of screen on time. If you're a light to moderate user, you're going to definitely get through the day, maybe a day and a half. So it is what it is. But if you want the better battery life and the slightly better cameras, I would say spend the extra $35 or the extra $60 if you want the higher tier model and get the G5 Plus. Now, you do lose some things because it doesn't charge as fast on the G5 Plus as it does on the X2, so you do lose out there. But it is what it is. You got to take some sacrifices. No device is perfect, and manufacturers are not going to give us a perfect device, because then that means they won't make money on their next devices. And you got to keep in mind, guys, everybody out there to make money, because we're all out there to better our lives and really pursue that life that we really want, that dream, that American dream. So we're not going to get the perfect device. We're going to get close, but it's not going to get perfect. So you do have to deal with some ups and some downsides. But that being said, I could easily recommend either of these devices. So don't forget, guys, all links to where to purchase these guys, exactly how you saw them in their full reviews, with the cases, screen protectors, all that good stuff will be linked down below. But it's really nice with the Blu, because all that stuff pretty much comes included with the device, where you have to purchase that stuff separately on the G5 Plus. Alright, links to the microSD cards and all that stuff will be down below, as well as links to the camera samples and links to the full reviews. Alright, guys, so if you guys enjoyed the video or you found it helpful, please help your boy out and give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You don't know how much. If you want to see more raw, uncut content like this, please hit the subscribe button down below, and make sure you click that little notification bell icon and wait for the pop-up so you get notified as soon as I post new videos. And as always, guys, if you know anyone out there looking for some high quality performance devices and products at some really great prices, please share with them my channel, because I'm doing this for everyone, because we all deserve the best. Also, please let me know how y'all feel about this comparison style. I know it doesn't have as much information in some areas as in some of my other comparisons, but I'm trying to really streamline this for you guys and still keep it very information packed, so you really know what you guys are spending your hard-earned money on before you go ahead and pull the trigger and pick up these devices, because I really want you guys to be really happy with your purchases. So please let me know how y'all feel about this comparison style, whether you prefer this one as opposed to the one that I've been using. Please let me know down in the comments. Also, please let me know how the audio sounds and how the video looks down in the comments as well. This whole video is being recorded using the 21 megapixel camera on the Moto X Pure Edition at 1080p. I think I'm going to leave that 4K alone for a little while. 1080p uploads faster and it still looks just as good. So anyways, guys, that was a long one. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Please remember to subscribe, hit that notification icon down below, and as always, if you know anyone out there looking for some high quality performance devices and products at some really great prices, please share with them my channel. Doing this for everyone. Alright, I hope everyone has a great day, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Peace, guys.